your brain tries to psych you out more, but the confidence creeps up faster, and then it kind of pushes the fear and uncertainty away. So in the beginning, I would just put my head down and try to do the stuff that scared me, regardless of how it made me feel. But I won't give that advice to other people because I literally had panic attacks and I thought I was going to die. So now it doesn't scare me as much as it used to because I'm more developed as a human. But it's because I kept working on me. The problem is people tell you to live outside of your comfort zone, but they don't tell you how far.
You're right. True.
And it's different for everybody.
Welcome to the Derelict Podcast. For the disparaged, depleted, and delinquent souls trying to find our way, we're talking about the scary part of the journey where we don't know how it'll end. Let's be free to face our fucking failures in real time as the most unadulterated, truest version of who we are. No sugarcoating. Welcome to the shit show, you derelict.
Welcome back to the Derelict Podcast. I am your host, Josh Abbandonato, and we have a very special guest here today, Kevin Palmieri. Am I pronouncing that correctly, Kevin?
2 thumbs up, Josh.
Absolutely. What's the origin of Palmieri?
Yeah, people ask me that all the time. I guess Italian, but I am a mutt, so you will hear very little Italian from me, but I would say that makes the most sense based on the spelling.
It would make the most sense to me as well. Mine is the same way. I'm a half. My dad's full-blooded.
Okay.
So,
yeah, I'm not that level. I'm not that level. Definitely not.
But at the same time, though, just because of people's perception, they would look at you and they might think you're more Italian than I am, right? Like I get Irish and Scottish and all this, and I'm wearing a Viking shirt, so I get this Viking, heritage. But either way, we digress. So thanks so much for being here. Kevin is the host of Next Level University. He is a pro at podcasting. I'm so excited to hear more about that, to learn from him, and to have him on the show. Today, we're talking a bit about self-worth, imposter syndrome, self-belief, things that as humans, as men, sometimes we really struggle with. And I'm telling you what, man, I'm going to be the first one to tell you that I struggle with it at times as well. So I'm really excited to hear what you have to say. So welcome.
First of all, I appreciate you having me. For those who don't know, Josh and I had a wonderful pre-call maybe a month ago or however long it was, and I've been looking forward to this. When I looked at my schedule today, I saw the Derelict Podcast, and I was like, all right, let me refresh my mind. What was that? And I was like, oh, Josh, that's going to be awesome. So I appreciate you having me on so very much. And yeah, one of the interesting things is I come off now probably as somebody who has a lot of self-belief. You happen to be in an arena with me right now where I've just done this thousands of times, so I feel really good. But I am not someone who identifies as super confident. I'm not someone who has very high self-worth. Those have been experiences that I've been dealing with for a long, long time. And the hard thing is, I expected that when I became more externally successful, those would actually get easier. And in a way, they've actually kind of gotten harder.
Oh, amen, brother. Absolutely. Right? Can you give us an example? So one of the things that we like to do on this podcast, which we talked about before, is we like to talk about this shit when we're in the middle of it, right? Yeah. What sort of failure, what sort of struggle, what are we believing right now? So talk a little bit about that, because I think that there's a lot of people that are listening that are varying levels of success, right? But I've noticed the same thing. Sometimes the more external success I have, the more kind of insecure, impostery syndrome type stuff pops up. So can you tell us maybe a recent example of something that's happened with you?
A last week example. So one of our friends at this point is Evan Carmichael. Evan Carmichael is a big guy on YouTube. He's got 3.8 million subscribers, hundreds of millions of views. He's like the self-improvement YouTube guy. And I reached out to him a few months ago and I said, hey, Ev, how do we get more speaking engagements? And he said, whatever you're doing, multiply the effort you're doing by 100 times.
Wow.
And I was like, well, yeah, that's pretty much what I expected. That's the type of advice you would give. But he reached out to me a couple weeks later and said, hey, I'm having a mastermind in Toronto. I'd love for you to come speak on podcasting and how to ask powerful questions. And Josh, everything in me, I wanted to say no. No. You must have the wrong Kevin.
Me?
You must have, me. You must be asking the wrong person. But I said yes. I'm in. Yes. I didn't even know the details. I don't know what day it is. Yes. So I go up to Toronto. This was last week. Okay, this was 7 days ago when I went up. So I go up, and on Wednesday, I interviewed him.
Okay.
Just for a podcast episode. And it lights, camera, action. We're talking like 3 cameras, a bunch of lights. There's people around. It was a whole thing. That wasn't too bad. But the night before I was speaking, so I spoke on Friday. The night before, I had this moment where I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this. I'm here, and it looks like I have a lot of momentum, and it looks like I know what I'm doing. But I've seen the people who I'm going to be speaking to, and they are all supremely successful. Way more successful externally than I am. And who am I, a 34-year-old, who all of these people are older and it feels like wiser and feels like more successful? None of them are going to take me seriously. No way.
Yeah.
Not a chance. So I had this moment. I had this moment where I regretted saying yes. And I said, I don't know if I want to do this. I really don't. I really don't want to do this. And I had to go through the exercise that I've had to go through so many times where I said, Kev, you always feel this way before you have an opportunity that you're so grateful you got, but you're scared you're going to underdeliver on. So I put my big boy pants on, and I put my belt on, and I put my nice shirt on, and then I went and I did the best I could. And I got some really good feedback, which was great. But that has been a cycle for me where it's kind of been this. Okay, you get an external result. So we crossed 1 million listens and $1 million from our podcast on the same day. Awesome. External success. What came up from that internally was my terrible fear of disappointing others, maybe a low-key fear of success because the bigger we are, the more opportunity I have to disappoint others.
Absolutely.
And now I'm working through that. So the external success brought internal turmoil. When I figure this internal stuff out and I work through it to a new degree, something will break loose in me and we will get a new level of external success. But that will also highlight and trigger another internal piece of turmoil. And I do believe that becomes the journey towards well-rounded success. So that's something I'm going through right now. Another one where the most successful we've been as a business. So right now we produce 40-something other podcasts. Awesome. I've also lost more clients in the last year than I have in the previous 5 years. And it broke.
Wait, as a percentage or just as a number?
As a number.
Okay.
As a number. But
Is part of the reason for that just because of the fact that you have so many more? I mean,
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wasn't ready for that. I wasn't ready. What does that mean about me? I'm disappointing people. Are the services not good?
Yeah, I'm not continuing to succeed, right? I mean, why would people leave me if I'm doing better?
That. And I told this to my business partner. I said, when I get a client, it's like 100% boost. When I lose a client, it's like 150% break.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So it almost takes me 2 more clients to redeem the feelings that I lost when I lost that one. So that's something I'm working through even now. I reached out to, and shout out to anybody trying to get a therapist, because getting a therapist is super challenging. I reached out to several and I still haven't heard back, but I realized that this wound of disappointment and abandonment, and I'm happy to talk about that too, but the fear of disappointment is stopping me from taking shots because I'm afraid if I do win and I get an opportunity, I'll end up disappointing the person, and that hurts more than it feels good winning, which is a dangerous game.
Absolutely.
So those are a couple examples.
I can't remember who says the quote, "You miss all the shots you don't take." Is that
Wayne
triggered?
Gretzky.
Was it Wayne Gretzky?
I think it was Wayne Gretzky, and then the guy in The Office, Michael Scott, said it was his quote or something.
Oh,
I think it was Wayne Gretzky.
I don't remember that part. That's great.
I think it was Wayne Gretzky.
Yeah. Wayne Gretzky also said another great quote of his is he said, "I don't skate to where the puck is. I skate to where the puck's going to be." And I love that quote, especially when we're talking about things like we're talking about right now. So, from my experience, and the people that we're speaking to on this podcast are people that have had success, right? Just because we talk about failures doesn't mean that we're talking to total failures in life. Usually, from my experience, the people that have more success have more internal stuff that pops up. Like the more success you get, the more you're getting in your own head about like, oh man, I don't deserve to have 1 million listens, right? Like I am an imposter here. I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm only 34, like you said. I can't speak to these people.
It was
Definitely
very
relate to that.
uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It was very uncomfortable, but this has become the process for me. is I look at the most recent and relevant proof. So what is the most recent and relevant proof that disproves the emotional sabotage that I'm currently experiencing?
Mm-hmm.
And it's always, I look back at the last things. I don't know if I told you this when we initially chatted, but I was getting ready to go on a podcast one time, and I was researching the show, and this person was a doctor for NASA.
Wow. Smart.
Space doctor. Didn't even know that was a thing. I've seen that in movies.
Right.
I didn't know that was a real job title.
I didn't know that either. Okay.
Right? Same moment of there's got to be another Kevin. Lines must have got crossed. There's got to be another Kevin Palmieri out there somewhere. And I was thinking to myself, what value could I possibly add to this podcast? There's no way. Everybody is smarter than me. There's no way I'm going to bring something different. But I had the same thing. Okay, based on what I'm feeling today, what's the most recent and relevant proof? And then I just looked back at a previous time recently where I didn't feel like I was qualified to go on the podcast. I went on and it went really well. And I think that's what courage is. I don't think courage is existing without fear. I don't think that it doesn't require courage if you're not afraid of it. I think courage is experiencing the fear, the uncertainty, the terrified nature of what you're doing, and then you saying, well, I'm going to do my best anyway, even if it goes wrong. I think that's courage. And I think that's why success is so challenging. Especially, I think it's challenging for everyone, but especially as a man, speaking for myself, you don't like to look weak. You don't like to make mistakes publicly. You don't like to show your failures publicly. You don't like to admit that the thing that is holding you back is actually something inside, not outside.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's scary. It's scary to out yourself that way. And I guess I've made a name by doing that. Like, that's kind of what I do at this point. But that's because I've become comfortable in the fact that if I can get down to the root cause of why I'm not doing the things that I need to do, I can work on those things. But if I always, right? But if I always say like, well, no, I could do it if I wanted to, but, or, well, I'm not scared of that at all. That becomes a perpetual cycle of just kidding myself. And then eventually it's going to break. Eventually the line will break and something will go horribly wrong and then you're not prepared for it. And I just don't want to experience that because I have in the past, right? I don't want to go back there.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I love, you said a lot of really good things. One of the things that I really liked as well is you didn't give a definition of courage necessarily, but you basically said that courage is experiencing fear and doing your best anyway.
Yeah.
Right? And I love that. I think that's fantastic. You know, so I'm curious, that actually brings up another question for me that I ask a lot of my guests is, since we talk about failure a lot on this podcast, how would you, if you had a sentence or two, how would you describe failure?
Now more than ever, it's things not go. True failure is things not going your way and then you packing your bag and going home. There's a big difference between a mistake and a failure.
So the packing your bags part is the key to failure for you?
Yeah, you're wrapping it up saying like I can't do this.
So if you don't pack your bags, you would call it a mistake?
I call it a mistake. I call it a learning lesson.
A learning lesson. Yeah, I would agree.
Right? If you said, what's your biggest failure? Again, it doesn't resonate. It's like, I don't know. I've made so many mistakes. I'll make dozens of mistakes in this interview and I won't say the right thing that I want to say. But we gave a speech and it was Bunny meets the Blades, worst outcome you can have, didn't resonate with a single soul. People were laughing at us during points of it.
Wow.
And then we went and gave another speech again.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, it sucked. It was brutal. Some people's biggest fears, absolutely. But something unique happens when you face your biggest fear and you're still standing after. You realize the monster in the closet is not a monster. It's a sock that had a light behind it that made it look like something that it wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
That was terrible emotionally. It wasn't good. It wasn't fun. It sucked. But my business partner and I went back to the Airbnb. We got pizza, and then we laughed about it. Because it was like,
what else are you going to do?
Right. That's
Are you
going
to
to
go cry in your sheets for the next 3 days and then not go speak again and then just give up on your... I mean...
And even if you do, maybe that's your thing. Maybe you do go cry. In
Well,
the sheets for
sometimes
3 days.
let's take a moment for this, right? If you're
Right,
listening
right.
to this and you're like, I've done that before. Well, so have we.
Yeah.
Kevin's not saying he's never done that, right? Like you're never saying, "Oh, I've never like been in this." Yeah, I get it. We have these emotions. We have to process these emotions.
Yeah.
I think as men, sometimes, at least I'll speak for myself as a man, it's harder for us to process these emotions sometimes because it just doesn't feel like we're able to. It doesn't feel like it's acceptable. Like, oh, I can't cry. I can't be depressed. I can't be sad. I can't be angry. Yeah, you can. Yeah. And if you don't process those emotions, I don't know if you've ever experienced this before, Kevin, but I sure have. If you don't process those emotions, what happens? They just come back with a vengeance, right?
Yeah. Yeah. They
If you have
explode.
some sadness you kind of got to deal with the sadness.
Yeah.
Otherwise, when it comes back, it could be, brutal. At least it has been for me in the past.
Same. How much of that has to do with your reference group, though?
What do you mean by that? Tell me more.
I think one of the reasons, and again, I'm not blanket statementing or any of that, but just if we think about it, when women are young, they often journal. They're given journals at a young age, and they're connecting with themselves pretty frequently and pretty quickly in life. Mm-hmm. And I think women surround themselves with people that they resonate with and they can be emotional with. If we were just to zoom out and say, okay, well, who are my guy friends as a man, and why are those guy friends my guy friends? I think a lot of it would have to do with geography. These are the people that I was born and raised with or are close to my current location. Probably we like to do the same things and have fun in the same way. I'm very curious to see what number on that list would be. I like to surround myself with this person because I feel like I can be vulnerable with them, and they're very, very strong when it comes to emotional regulation. I cry on our podcast. I cry on team meetings, but I'm surrounded by people that I feel safe around.
Yeah.
And I think there's something to that. I now more than ever think one of the biggest things holding us back is the people around us.
Absolutely.
More than ever. And some of the people that you love the most deserve your time the least. And that's one of the hardest things to talk about.
There are several people that have said this, so I'm not sure who to give credit to. So I'll just say it. But what they said is, you are or you will be the 5 people that you surround yourself with the most. So what I would encourage listeners, viewers, etc., to think about right now, think of the 5 people that you're around the most and tell me if that's true. Because I think if you really look at it and you look at the 5 people that you spend the most time with, that you are around the most, that are your closest friends, etc., you become like those people. So to your point, Kevin, if those people are open and honest and vulnerable and okay crying and okay going with emotions and everything else, you're going to be like that. Yep. If they're not and they're closed off and they're stuck on their narrative of whatever they want the world to see of them, and then that's how you're going to be. It's just, it's almost impossible, I think, to be a completely different person than the people that you're surrounding yourself with all the time.
It's definitely a challenge because as human beings, we want to fit in. Even if
Absolutely.
fitting in means not doing what's best for us or being the most authentic version of us or being the most aligned version of us, whatever it is. And I think we've all had those times where we look back and say, I can't believe I spent as much time with that person as I did.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
Because your awareness is changing and your core values and you're getting clear on it. But I also understand. I think some people they'd rather be misaligned than lonely.
Well, you also brought up another really good point earlier that I want to touch on for a second that we're coming back to, and that is the fear of success. And I think, at least from my experience, most people, it's easier to resonate with the fear of failure, right? Like, oh no, I'm going to fail, etc. What about the fear of success, right? What about that? And maybe some people call it imposter syndrome because they have some success and they call it fear of success. But the fear of success is real, man. And to your point, I have found myself, I'll be vulnerable here for a second. I have found myself in points in my life, maybe I'm even in one right now and I don't see it, where I will surround myself with people that I wouldn't say that I see them as lesser, but maybe like I'm more financially successful than them, or I have a bigger business than they do, or a more successful podcast than they have, whatever, so that maybe I can kind of have this little bit of a chip because I'm really scared of surrounding myself with people that are doing 10x what I'm doing, because then it's going to put a lot of pressure on me going 10x, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever experienced that before or not, but that to me is how fear of success kind of plays out sometimes in my life.
I haven't experienced it in that way because transparently, we've had opportunities to be mentored by people that were just decades ahead of us.
It's awesome.
So yeah, it was, I mean, when you have $150 million net worth and I'm a podcaster who hasn't made a dime, it's like all I'm doing is looking up.
Yeah.
So that wasn't my experience. And transparently, the fear of success thing is relatively new to me. That's not something I thought everybody was doing this to win. I will grind my face off because I think that's what you have to do to win. What really started the understanding and the awareness for me was my business partner. So my business partner is the most extraordinary human I've ever met.
Wow.
Just a genius, works 90, 100 hours a week, just has exercised every day for the last 3 years. He's just a sicko. He's just a machine who was put on this planet to add value and change the world. That's his thing. He doesn't care about much else.
Love it.
Great human. But not treated the way you'd expect.
He's not treated the way you'd expect?
No. Based on
How
all
so?
the wonderful things I just said about him, you'd be like, oh, people must love him and give him all the flowers all the time. And no, he's been pulled down by a lot of people because when you're more successful than those around you and they want you to stay around, they have to pull you down.
Absolutely.
Right? So his fear of success came from the fact that every single time he reached a new level of success, he got villainized more by the people closest to him.
Right.
Eventually, the people stopped villainizing and just left.
Mm-hmm.
And it, excuse me, and it became this: if I grow, then I'm lonely. If I succeed, then I'm villainized. If I be myself, then I'm hated. And that became his cycle. And when we started working together, we've done a lot of work with one another to help each other because my biggest fear was failure. We got to get out there. We're going to be fine. This is what we're trying to do. His biggest fear was success. So we really worked through that. And the challenging understanding for all of this is if you were just your authentic self faster, you might not have the people that you have in your life anyway.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's, again, this is all super easy to say when you're 15 years into a friendship and you realize, oh, this person likes to do this, 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 and I haven't liked to do that in 7 years. Obviously, that's a deeper conversation and a deeper thought process for yourself. But that's how I've seen it. I've seen it manifest in every time I grow, I lose people. If I grow to the level that's necessary for me to accomplish my goals, I'm going to be completely lonely. And I don't know if I'd rather be lonely than successful or successful. I don't know if I'd rather be successful and lonely or around people and less successful.
Yeah, because you have, I mean, we all do this, right? If we don't fit in the box that somebody else makes for us, then it becomes uncomfortable and we don't know what to do with it, right? So I'll share another quick story on this that I think resonates. About a year ago, a really good buddy of mine went through a lot of shit together, a lot of different life events, known him for a long time, etc. We kind of had this moment where we both realized we're not as close friends as we thought we were. And it was really rough for me, man, because what I realized is I was like, you know what? I just realized that things always ended up kind of being my fault. He wasn't really I thought about it for a second. I was like, has he ever apologized to me? And I don't think the answer was yes. And then I kind of brought it up to him. He's like, well, I don't have anything to apologize for. I was like, yeah, that's not where I'm at in my life right now anymore. I need somebody that's authentic, that's there, that's open, that we can deal with these struggles together. And it really, unfortunately, hurt our relationship. We still talk, and it was just that moment. And maybe this is encouragement for people that are listening and watching as well. When you're thinking about those 5 people, you don't have to be extreme, right? You don't have to go to all 5 of those people and be like, fuck you, I'm out, right? You don't have to do that. But to not use an overused word of boundaries, because sometimes I hate how that word is used these days. But here's what I would encourage you to do. Think about the structure of the friendship and think about if anything needs to change based on where you are going in your life. Because what I realized with my buddy is I didn't want to cut him off. Love the guy, went through a lot of experiences together. We're always going to have that. We have some very unique experiences that I'm never going to have with another human being on the planet. So I don't want to cut that off. However, I can't have him in my life as a really open, vulnerable, honest, we're dealing with this shit stuff together, because he's not willing to do that. And that's okay. That's his story. But I can't have him in my inner circle anymore. He can be in an outer circle, but he can't be in an inner circle. So I'd really encourage people that are listening, think about that. Think if those 5 people, like your business partner, of course he's in your inner circle. Like, sounds like an amazing guy to have in your inner circle, right? Yeah. But there are people that, as you continue to get more successful, I do, et cetera, we have to limit and we have to figure this out. I can't even imagine what people that have, 100 million followers on YouTube or Instagram or whatever have to deal with. I mean, God, the cynicism and the people that just hate them just for being alive, right? Yeah. Just for no other reason besides you made a bunch of money, I didn't, it's your fault.
I'm afraid of that. That's what I'm afraid of. That's one of the things I'm afraid of. Yeah, it's one of the things I'm afraid of is you see a snapshot of someone, but you don't see all the work they did.
Right, absolutely.
And you just villainize the results.
The overnight success, right?
Yeah.
Like, Kevin, clearly you're an overnight success that took however many years.
Yeah. It's like, well, I guess you must have missed the first 1,750 podcast episodes, like the 1,751 that did it,
Right.
But yeah, that scares me. I think one of the reasons it scares me, Josh, transparently, is because I've been very low, and I've definitely villainized people. I never reached out and messaged them. That's not the type of person I was. But I would definitely look at someone who had results that I didn't, and I would say it must be nice. So I think there's a piece of me that understands why somebody would do that. And I think it just connects with me, and that's what makes me dislike it even more. So
yeah, I found absolutely, to be totally transparent. I know somebody in the podcasting space. We have a similar podcast and everything else. And just the other day on social media, I had to hide his stuff because mentally, what it was doing to me was like, wow, that guy's so much more successful than me. And every time I saw it, I was like, oh man, I'm not living up to this, right? And it's nothing this guy did. The guy's amazing guy, love him, really excited to get to know him better and everything else. But that just negative headspace, right? Where I just realized, I was like, you know what? I want to, I'm like you, right? Like, oh man, must be nice that guy has all those followers and has all those listeners and everything else. Well, that's because he works his fucking ass off. I know the dude, I've met him, right? I know he's fucking killing it, and good for him. And I don't want his success to go away at all, but I also have to rewatch my own brain and just redefine what is success for me. How do I view success in a different way, or in a way that helps me continue to live my life passion? Like you said, if it took 1,750 podcast episodes for you to get there, what kind of headspace do you have to have? And this is an actual question. I'm curious. What kind of headspace does it have to just keep going when it doesn't really look like the results are there? What worked for you?
I always believed it would be worth it. I never.
But why? What was the why? What would because the why has to drive you, right?
I have a deep desire, and this is going to sound super cliche, but I have a deep desire to be the type of person that I needed when I wanted to kill myself. For me, it's very personal. All this other stuff, I value money. I do 100%. I value material possessions. I want certain cars. Yes, I do. But trust me, if that was the number one thing running, I wouldn't have started a self-improvement podcast. I would have done something else. I would have gone into real estate or something, because this isn't the best.
Resold watches on Amazon or something.
Yeah,
right?
anything. Maybe quite literally anything other than having a self-improvement business. For me, I genuinely aspire to be the type of person in every situation that I needed when I was younger. Every situation. This interview, the reason I do it the way I do, or this conversation, the way I do it the way I do, is because I want to be the person. I want 2016 Kevin to hear this and say, you know what? I could mess with that guy. What else does he have? Not toxic. I can tell he understands that I don't believe in myself, so he's not saying, just believe in yourself more. And if your goals don't scare you, they're not big enough. I think that's the dumbest shit ever. I think it's the dumbest shit of all time. It's stupid. For certain people who have 10 out of 10 belief, it works. But most people don't have 10 out of 10 belief. And I think people lose sight of that. So that's the big thing to me, is I really aspire to be I aspire to be that person, and I have a very honest connection with the word that a lot of people use, legacy. Somebody asked me that one time. They said, "What's your legacy?" And I said, "I don't know. I'm thinking very small when it comes to that." Josh, most people that hear me today will never hear me again on this episode. They'll never hear from me again. This is my legacy. My legacy with them is this episode, and hopefully we can have one conversation, one topic, one breakthrough, and that will be my legacy.
There could be one sentence that you say that could switch somebody's life like that.
That's it. And that's what it's all about. And that's what it's all about for me. Now, if you said to me, Kev, you can have a self-improvement podcast and brand and all that stuff, and you can help a bunch of people, but you'll never be financially successful, I think I would probably want to do things a little bit differently, because I do aspire to have financial success as well. I do. I was broke growing up. Certainty, opportunity, choice, like a lot of that comes with more money, so that is something that I aspire to, but not to the degree that I'd ever sell my soul or risk my character to get it.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
it's really that. And then eventually, as you get going, it's almost like it's easier to keep going than it is to stop.
Yeah, for sure.
We're just going to stop at 1,700. That we're just going to stop now. We've been doing this for so long. Might as well just keep going.
Right.
So that's a piece of it too. I think it's the law of momentum. When you don't do something over and over, I think it's harder to start. When you do something over and over, I think it's harder to quit.
Yeah. I mean, I found that already. You know, the day we are recording this, my podcast has only been out for 3 months, right? Yeah. And I've had plenty of moments where I've wanted to quit along the way. I'm like, it's not worth it. No one cares. No, all that sort of head trash that you tell yourself. But one thing that you said earlier, brother, I just want to say this to you. That is not cliche at all.
I appreciate it.
The fact that you want to speak to a more distressed version of yourself that was so upset about what was happening on life that you didn't know it was worth staying here is beautiful.
I appreciate that.
And I just want to let you know that.
Thank
if
you.
you hold on to that, brother, you are going to speak to a lot of people. I mean, I know you already have spoken to a lot of people. I don't mean that. I just mean you're going to speak to a lot of people, because that is the truth and the authenticity that is missing today. There's plenty of, like you said earlier, it's the success bullshit podcasts out there. It's not mine. It's not yours. People can go listen to that if they want to go listen to that. The authentic piece of, man, that was only 8 years ago, brother.
I know.
8 years, dude.
I know.
That's
the wild thing.
in the span of eternity. How long is 8 years?
Nothing. Theoretically.
Like odds are, and I hope this isn't true, especially for you, but odds are in 500 years, no one's going to know either of our names, right? Mm-hmm. But we can make an impact while we're here. And 8 years is so much of a fraction of that. That was just like yesterday. And now you're here speaking to tons of people and giving them hope. I just want to encourage you with that, because
I appreciate it.
I just never want you to think in your brain that that's cliche at all, because it's not. It's beautiful.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it very much. I can promise that is one thing that will never go.
Because you were there. How do you get rid of that? You can't just ignore that.
You can't. You wouldn't do things the way we do them if it wasn't about impact first.
I wouldn't have started any of this, Kevin, if it wasn't for the shit that I went through in my life.
Of course.
That I came out the other side of.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had every failure that you could possibly think of. Financial, business, marriage, divorce, whatever. Like, they've all happened. And I wouldn't be able to do a podcast like this if I didn't have those. Because what the hell would I come on here to talk about? I come here and say, hey, look at my perfect Instagram life. Just go look at how everything is wonderful. Boring. There's plenty of those.
I like one of the other things, Josh. I like the real stuff. You're good. Again, you and I talked before, and there was nothing but love. So I'm grateful. I appreciate all the kind words very much.
Absolutely. There's one other thing that you said earlier too that I just wanted to make a reference to, a book that I've actually talked about on the podcast before. Have you heard of the book The Gap and the Gain?
I have.
Have you read it?
I haven't read the whole thing, but I have read some of it.
I'd encourage you to read it. I think it was really good based on some things that you were talking about before. And just for, again, listeners, viewers, just very briefly, basically the concept is, where's your mental focus? Is it on the gap, aka where I want to go that I haven't gotten to yet? That's the gap. Or is it the gain, AKA where I started and where I am right now? And it's a rewording of terms, the same concept. You know, you could talk about gratitude. You could talk about all these other things that could mean the same thing. But it really clicked for me with those different words. Sometimes I think you just need to change a word and it clicks in a different way to where what we're just talking about right there. You could look at, well, I want this many subscribers. I want this many listeners. I want to be here. Or you could look at, dude, 8 years ago, you didn't want to be on this planet. And now you're impacting several thousands, millions people. Amazing.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
I have a practice, Josh, that's very in alignment with that. When I'm really high emotionally or really low emotionally, I look back. That's like my number one thing is I reflect.
Right.
And after I gave that speech and it got through the rest of the day.
Wait, which one? The bad one or the one
recent,
the imposter one?
The imposter one.
Okay, got it.
Let's say this. Saying the imposter one doesn't do anything because every single time I do a speech, I feel like an imposter. The most recent imposter one.
Okay, fair enough.
Right? I went back to the Airbnb. I got 6 tacos. Some of the best tacos I've ever had. Toronto, shout out to you for having great tacos. And
Toronto has amazing food.
I was so surprised.
So me too. I had no idea how culturally diverse the food was, the people were, everything in Toronto, to be honest. Like I was going to Canada like a typical person viewing just a bunch of, a boot? You know, like it was terrible. It's not like that at all. Toronto's an amazing place. Anyway, I'm sorry. I digress.
No, you're good. I think it's worth expanding on for sure. So I ate my tacos. And I was laying in bed, and I was just scrolling on my old content, and I just started crying because it was like, it's this weird thing where you long for something, and you work so hard for it. You work so hard, and then you get the opportunity, and in my case, you don't think you can do it. Then you prove to yourself that you can do it, and it's almost the emotion of looking back on old Kev saying, like, I knew I'd make you proud. I knew if I got the opportunity, I would make you proud. And there was a little piece of you 5 years ago that knew you could do this too. You just didn't know how it was going to happen. And it's this beautiful encapsulation of 8 years or 7 years or 4 years, depending on where you are, into one event. And then you wake up the next day and your identity is wonky and you don't know who you are anymore. And then you start the journey again of figuring out, okay, who am I? And then what's the next thing? And then how far have I come? And then it just becomes, I've had a lot of those moments on this journey, and every time I learn a new lesson. And it's usually not an external lesson. It's usually an internal Kev lesson, a nugget for later is probably the best way to put it.
Yeah, so and we kind of talked about this briefly earlier, but I'm curious if there's any more you want to expand on it, and that's that whole idea of just self-belief. You know, I was telling, this is related but unrelated. I was telling somebody the other day that they just became an entrepreneur, a business owner for the first time in their life. They've always worked for somebody else. And they finally got to a point where they're like, I'm sick of this. I'm sick of everybody else controlling my destiny and all these other things. And they're like, I'm just going to go do it myself. And good for her. She's doing awesome, but she's still early on in it, right? She just started maybe 4 or 5 months ago. And one of the things that I told her that I have learned, which I think is very true, and I think you can, I don't know if you could prove this or not, and that is that 80% of business success is psychology. 80% of it is, what am I doing up here? What sort of limiting mindsets or beliefs do I have? What sort of not unlimited mindsets, beliefs do I have, etc.? So when I say that, I'm curious, is there anything that you want to expand on as far as self-belief, or maybe what you've learned about self-belief in that process? Like how do you now handle a situation where you do a presentation and you have that imposter syndrome now? How do you deal with that self-belief now versus 8 years ago, 4 years ago, 2 years ago? Any thoughts on that?
I used to have someone with me who made me do it.
Alan, what do you mean? Like physically, or they're like, no, you got to, like, encouraging physically, both?
Yeah, both.
Okay.
Both. I, for most of my career, have spoken with somebody else. I've spoken with Alan. This was the first time I'd ever, second time I did it with, I spoke on podcasting, but that was different. I'll say this. I told Alan what I wanted. I said, this is the level of success. This is the level of impact. This is what I want out of life. And he always redirects me. Kev, based on what you said you want, my truth, and from my perspective as a mentor of you, is that if you don't do this, you're not going to get the level of success you want. With that information, what are your thoughts? Shit. All right, I guess I'll do it. I have a very real conversation with myself, Josh, often of either you do what it takes to accomplish the goal or you don't get the goal. And that's fine, but you do not get to complain about it if you don't do it. That's on you. You decided you want to do the diet. You can cheat on the diet all you want. But when beach season comes around and you're not ripped like you want to be, you don't get to blame anyone else. That's on you. Take ownership for that. So that's one piece that I've been running this whole time. The other piece of it is the identity piece. I have never quit tattooed on my arm. I have the identity of someone who can just suffer more than anyone else. I was never the biggest. I was never the best. The thing I could do that other people couldn't do is I could just take a beating more than other people could. So that's part of my identity of, well, yeah, I'm scared, but I'll do it anyway. Or I'll have panic attacks in the hotel before I go do an interview, if that's what it takes. Like, if that's what I signed up for, that's what I'm willing to do. And if anything, the opportunity for fear has been higher, but the time that the fear stays isn't as long. So I was terrified for like an hour. And then once I started speaking, it was like, yeah, we're fine. This is going to be fine. We're good. We've done this enough. I think your brain tries to psych you out more, but the confidence creeps up faster, and then it kind of pushes the fear and uncertainty away. So in the beginning, I would just put my head down and try to do the stuff that scared me, regardless of how it made me feel. But I won't give that advice to other people because I literally had panic attacks and I thought I was going to die. Yeah. So now it doesn't scare me as much as it used to because I'm more developed as a human. But it's because I kept working on me. The problem is people tell you to live outside of your comfort zone, but they don't tell you how far.
Right. True.
And it's different for everybody. For everybody, it's a little bit different. Last thing to wrap this up. I think I have a very unique experience because Alan has taken me places that I would not have gotten to by myself. So I have had to develop grit and perseverance and resilience and skills and talents, soft skills, hard skills, that I never would have had to because I wouldn't be where I am today. So I think it's been an opportunity for me to get places that I never would have gotten, but I do think it has taken pieces of me that I will quite literally never get back. And I think it's important to state that because I never had anxiety before this. Before this journey, I'd never had a panic attack. I didn't really understand what anxiety was. Then I started having panic attacks because I was so far outside of my comfort zone. I don't think most people should endure that and go through that.
Really good stuff. There's a lot of good things that you said that I'm gonna touch on a few of them. One is, I don't know if you've ever read much articles, books, etc., about presidents of the United States, but one common theme that I've read, and if you look at just modern presidents as well, without getting political here, it doesn't really matter if they're Republican, Democrat, whatever. One of the common themes that you see with the presidents that end up leaving a legacy that people are okay with, right? Like some might be pissed because they thought they were terrible, etc., is the fact that the smart ones have said, my whole goal is to get people that are more qualified, more successful, smarter than me in the room with me. And I think what you're mentioning there with Alan is the same thing. Yeah. If you don't have somebody that's pushing you to the next level, and he's not pushing you in the social media, get off your ass, come work out, and be, like that bullshit that doesn't fucking work. I mean, it works for some people, but it doesn't work for me. So if it works for you, great. I mean, both of us look like, I don't know, we don't hit the gym for 6 hours a day. Like we're both in shape, but like, I don't know about that. So there's that sort of motivation. The other sort of motivation is what you just said, and that is asking a key question and trying to remind somebody their why and their passion and their purpose, and being smart about getting you to decide. Because if you don't decide, just like I don't decide, I can't let somebody else decide for me. If somebody tells me to do something, I'm key at this, and maybe I'm the only one. But if somebody tells me what to do, I usually say, fuck you, I'm not going to do it. That's just my personality. But if somebody is like, well, would this help improve what you're trying to do in your life? I'm like, oh, fuck. Yeah, it would. I should probably do that, which is what Alan did to you. I think that's fantastic. There's another thing that I ask myself that maybe some people would find helpful that I also learned from somebody else. And that is, when I feel fear coming up inside of me, one of the questions that I often ask myself is, what's the worst that could happen? Mm-hmm. Because with fear, like, let's say a public speaking fear, which is not a real clear and present danger fear, right? Like, that's an imaginary fear. That's not a real, like, a bear's about to attack me fear. Those are two different fears, and I'll talk about that in a second. But when I'm experiencing something like that, what's the worst that could happen? Well, people don't like it. People boo. People laugh. But the worst that could happen is that in a half an hour, I'm done with this speech.
Yeah.
Like, my family doesn't die. Bombs don't get dropped on my house, right? Like, at the end of the day, okay, have I dealt with something like that before, and did I get through it? I did. I'm still alive. Cool. I can do it. And the other thing that I want to point out real quick too, and if you, for the listeners, viewers, if you haven't listened to the episode on fear, I'm going to plug my own podcast here. I know I don't usually do that, but go back and listen to the fear episode, because this is one of the things that we talk about there. And we talk about the difference between real and imaginary fear, or the words I'm going to use today. And that is, there is a bear in front of me that is hungry, that's upset for whatever reason, that wants to attack me and kill me. That's a real, clear, present fear. I have to do something about that, right? Otherwise, I might die. Then there's the fear of, oh, I'm a little scared because I have to go give a presentation, but nothing's going to happen to my family. Nothing's going to happen to me physically like that. And where is that fear coming from? Is that even real? Now, the emotion is real. I don't mean that the fear is not real. What I mean is there any logical reason that the fear actually exists? Like, maybe I had a bad experience before speaking, or maybe I've never spoken in front of this many people, etc. But in all intents and purposes, that's just shit my mind made up. Our minds are amazing, right? I remember somebody said a little while ago, somebody has a bit on this, and they're like, oh, there's no way that the human mind could, experience and imagine all these sort of things, right? And his response was, have you seen Star Wars? Like, our minds, it's amazing what our minds can come up with, right? Our minds can come up with whatever story and narrative we want. If I want to make you a villain, Kevin, in my head, I can do it all day long. If I want to make myself as an unsuccessful person that's not making it in life, I can do it all day long. If I want to make that person out as the bad guy, I could do it all day long. If I want to make that person the hero, I could do it all day long. Great season for us to watch this right now with politics in America and the presidential debates and the things that just seem to, keep getting more out of hand and crazy, is that we villainize, we can make up whatever decision we want in our mind about who we are. So I love what you said about self-belief, and it goes back to your definition of courage as well, right? To do what scares you.
Yeah.
To experience fear and do it anyway. Go ahead.
I used to think confidence was being good at something. I think true confidence now is how you react when you take an L.
Yeah.
And it's always the quarterback thing for me I just think it's the best analogy. A quarterback can be super confident when you're winning 72-0.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably pretty easy to be confident.
For sure.
Right? But what do you do? How do you feel? How do you respond? How do you react when you throw an interception when you're down by 7?
Right.
And then you get the ball back. That, I think, is confidence. Now, this is a good little thing to touch on. I used to think self-belief, confidence, self-efficacy, I used to think that was the game. Then we started to understand how self-worth plays into this. So this is a good question for anybody to ask. I think it's probably hard to ask it of yourself, but it'll make sense. I was talking to this guy. He was a men's coach. He had a men's group, men's podcast, just a really good man, a really healthy, masculine individual. And he's like, Kev, I just don't think I believe in myself enough. And I was like, that ain't it. I know by looking at you. Game recognizes game. I can tell you're more confident than I am, for sure. Well, let's do a test, right? You want to start a podcast. You're aspiring kind of to create what we've created. All right, cool. Let's talk about that. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you believe in your own unique capabilities with your hands to build this dream brick by brick by brick, to do the interviews, to be on other shows, to become the thought leader, to make the content? And he smiled. He said, 12 out of 10. I know that. I said, all right, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you feel like you deserve
there it is.
all of the amazing results and the love and the kind words and the compliments and the success that comes with that? And he paused and he said, shit, 2 out of 10? I said, that's your issue, man. This isn't an external problem. This is an internal thing that we need to work on. The self-worth thing is huge, because if you don't think you deserve it, in a really, I don't want to say graphic example, but if we think of a young lady who was not raised in a good environment, and let's just say dad was toxic, abusive, not kind, that's going to affect somebody's self-worth, most likely. The people that they start dating when they're young are probably going to be in that similar bucket, unfortunately.
They're going to be assholes, for sure.
Most likely, right? Which perpetuates the low self-worth. And instead of attracting a certain person and then filtering them out, we attract those people and we don't filter them out because we are convinced that we don't deserve any better, and it just perpetuates. Same shit happens on the other end. Somebody who is raised with a silver spoon, they think they deserve the best in everything. They think they should be treated a certain way. Neither of them are true, necessarily. And a lot of us, unfortunately, are living on the polarities, and we're getting the results of those polarities, when the ultimate thought, the ultimate goal, what we've been working very diligently on, is how do I drive to 5? Confident, but humble. Self-worth is very high, but I also understand that I'm not the best. I also understand that it's nobody's job to work their day around mine. I understand that I am not deserving of the success that I don't create. That is where I aspire to live, because I think that's the truth. And when you live in the truth, it's up to you. It's up to you to change the truth. So it's been a very interesting journey figuring out self-belief, self-worth. How does that account for this? How does it account for this? And almost nobody is really accurate. Most people are either over or under, just by statistics, if we play that game.
Yeah, I'm curious, as we're kind of wrapping up here, you're bringing up a really good point. I wonder how do you, in your mind, how do you have a healthy self-worth? I know who I am as a person. I love myself for these reasons, etc., without taking it too far and becoming a narcissist, as an example.
Yeah.
Where you're just in love with yourself.
Do hard shit. One of the best ways to build self-worth is to build self-trust. I said I was going to do this. I'm a person of my word. I said I was going to do it. Now I'm going to do it for me, not for somebody else. I said I was going to go to the gym. I'm going to the gym. Boundaries is another one. Setting and keeping boundaries, especially with people close to you that take advantage of you. When you start to get to the place, I had a little bit of this after the recent presentation that went well. People were asking to take pictures with me. It's like, I'm the man. I'm the man. Very quickly, I said, Kev, you're nothing. You're a person on this journey. Don't forget where you started. Awesome. People want to take pictures with you. Tomorrow, you're going to go to the gym and it's going to suck. Like, let's not lose sight of that.
Right.
I think as you start to feel yourself, you have to make a bigger effort to do something hard that will humble you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just as an example, my business partner tried to run a marathon on 2 days' notice. And he said the half marathon was easy. He said after that, things went downhill. And he said, I was a zombie. That
usually happens, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But he said something very powerful. He said, I need that, Kev. I think I could do anything. I think there is nothing on the planet I can't do. I need to go do stuff like that and get humbled. It's important for me to stay accurate. Where me, I don't think I can run a marathon. So if anything, I need to start with a half a mile. That'll help me build self-worth. It'll help me build belief. And then we'll drive to the center from the opposite polarities.
I think, and one of the things you said at the beginning is keeping your commitments, right? Which I find extremely important and also extremely timely. And I don't know, maybe I'm going to sound like an old man right now, but it just seems like in this society, that's one of the things that people just don't seem to think matter at all anymore. Like I have something scheduled, I'll just blow it off. I was supposed to send this to you. Oh, I got busy. Right. I mean, the amount of excuses that we tell, and again, I do it as well. I'm not just blaming other people. I do it as well. But the amount of excuses that we give to just break our commitments all the time is astounding to me. And some of the people that I respect the most on this planet are just the ones that do what they say they're going to do. They have the courage. If they're worried about failing, if they have fear around it, whatever, they can be open about all that, but just do what you fucking say you're going to do. Yeah. You know, like I really struggle with this. I'll give you an example, Kevin. I really struggled with this yesterday because I just got back from camping with my kids. I started feeling like I was getting sick and I just was feeling like shit. So yesterday morning I had to wake up as a guest on a podcast. I was really looking forward to it. Love the guy, love his podcast and everything else. And I just wasn't feeling it, man. I was like, I don't want to do this. I don't feel good. I don't want to, it's, is it going to be the end of the world? And I was like, no, you're going to do this. You committed to this. You're not changing. You will make it happen. And what helped me in that moment, and what always helps me with my own self-worth in that moment, is that I'm not thinking about myself. Now, I know that sounds backwards, but what I was thinking in my head was, I really like this guy. I like what he's doing with his podcast. I think I can provide some value. How can I help and serve him during this hour? And not in a codependent, so like he loves me sort of way. Just how can I give to this guy? How can I make the best episode for him for this? Because I believe very strongly, whether you believe in God or karma or universe or whatever, that when you put that out into the universe, it comes back to you. And I'm not doing it so it comes back to me. I'm doing it because I want to make sure that I'm doing as much as I can and I can keep my commitment with this man. Because if I'm not keeping my commitments, dude, what's the point of life, brother? Like, I'm sure you've met these people and dealt with these people too. Like you have friends and they never keep a commitment. And eventually you're like, fuck you, dude. Like, I don't know. I can't hang out with you anymore. Like if we have coffee every week and you bail on me every single week, like I just don't have time for people like that.
I'm blessed because I don't have a lot of those people around. The circle has gotten
Thank
tighter
God.
And smaller
Yeah.
as we've grown. But yeah, there's definitely
which is critical too. Which is
100%.
critical, right? For people 100%. That are listening, watching, if you have a fear of letting people go, which we all do, because we all have experience with people, etc. If you don't, you will be where you're at as forever. You just will. You eventually have to get to a point where you're like, it's okay. I just need to let go. And if somebody wants to come on the journey with me, the journey I'm on, great. If they don't, that's okay. It's not a rejection. It's not a goodbye. It's none of that. It's just, that's what I have to do. So, Kevin, man, thank you so much for being on this podcast. I could talk to you for another 2 hours, but we're not Joe Rogan. We don't do 4-hour podcasts here.
Can I add one thing before?
Yeah, please. I was actually just going to ask you if there's like any big takeaways or anything that you wanted to leave with people.
Just based on what you just said, it's one of my favorite quotes that has changed my life maybe more than any, based on an experience that I had. Are the people in your life the best from your past or the best for your future? That question alone, it sucks to answer. Potentially, but that's what I would leave everyone with, because again, if you're not going to advocate for a brighter future for yourself, nobody else is.
No.
And there are people in your life that are okay with you being the exact version of you today. I'm not making that wrong. I want you to be the version of you that you aspire to.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying there's anything wrong with you. I'm not saying you're not intrinsically valuable. None of that. But if you aspire for more, I want you to be around people who want you to aspire for more, and they want to help you get there, regardless of it if it means they're going to get left behind. Those are the types of friends. So
right.
That would be it.
I love that. I absolutely love that, because that if you have true friends like that really want you to get to your next level, that's a true friend, man. I want people. Yeah, absolutely. You're super blessed.
Yeah.
I want people in my corner that just want me to succeed. And I want to be that person too. I don't want to be the person that just, we already talked about this during this podcast. I don't want to be the person that just gets jealous and, I'm always like trying to kind of cut people down because I'm fearful of their success when I don't feel like I have the same, like, I don't want to be that person either. So I don't want people like that around me. That's beautiful. Love that. Well, Kevin, thanks again. Everybody, check out the show notes. A link to Kevin's podcast, Next Level University, will be there. Go check it out. Thank you so much for being here. As always, if you liked what you heard, please like, subscribe, depending on what platform you are, rate the podcast. And more importantly, share it with a friend. Share it with somebody that you feel maybe they're going through a hard time with some self-worth, self-belief, they're maybe in a transition, etc. That it might help them. We hope it will. So, Kevin, man, it's been a real honor. You've been a great guest. Thank you so much for being here.
You're a wonderful host. Your
Appreciate
audience
you.
is lucky to have someone like you at the helm, my friend.
Thank you, sir. All right. Well, till later. See you later, you derelicts.